Good morning, everyone. And it's just like being in a classroom, eh? Good morning, and it's a real privilege to be here and to bring greetings on behalf of the Premier and some opening comments on behalf of the government. And thanks to everyone that joined us at the hospitality suite last night. It's probably one of the first dry hospitality suites I've ever been at, but we can work on that in the future maybe, right, Tim? I also was very interested to find that there's a fella among your membership named Jeff Johnson. Jeff, where are you at? Where are you? Yeah. So I have a scapegoat now for everything. So anything that happens that you don't like, he did it. I'm going to blame it. And anything that happened that you do like, you know, I'll take some credit. Typical politician. But you know that originally my schedule, as I just came into this portfolio, 2 weeks ago, was scheduled to be on a plane right now to South Korea at the APEC conference for education ministers. It happens every 4 years, and Alberta is the vice chair of the Council of Ministers of Education for Canada. So we were the lead. We were to be there to represent Canada, but this relationship here is more important. And And with the support and of our Premier, we changed my plans and changed my tickets. We sent my Chief of Staff on ahead, so he'll be meeting with the Ambassador ahead of me and some of the delegation, and I'll get there in time for plenty of the meetings. So I'm really excited to be here, and like I said, I'm very happy that many of you stopped by the hospitality suite last night, and I got a chance to listen to some of the things that are on your mind. And it took me back to the days of Inspiring Education, where I co-chaired that initiative for the better part of 2 years, and it was a great experience. And we did a lot of listening for 2 years, and I think that what came out of that dialogue was really important for Alberta, and really important for us, and more importantly, really important for our kids. And I'm just curious, how many of you are familiar with the Inspiring Education work? And how many of you think it's on the right track? That's where we need to keep going. So, that's one of the things I heard last night. We heard some things from you that are, some of the things front of mind for you are issues around assessment, issues around workload, and what I've been hearing from teachers and your members is that you want the highest quality instruction, the highest quality teachers in front of our kids that we can possibly get. And to do that, you need time. You need time to keep your skills up, and time to collaborate, and time for professional development, and time to prepare. So I'm looking forward to having more and more discussions like that, and I know that we will here coming up. And I think as we move forward with Inspiring Education, that's a great context within to have those discussions, because if we're going to get where Inspiring Education talks about and that educated Albertan of 2020 and 2030, we need to have the kind of discussions that you want to have. And I know... And I know that our partners here from the Public School Board Association and the ASBA and all those folks feel the same way. Because at the end of the day, I think if you don't know Inspiring Education, or you're not quite sure what's in there, if there's one thing that resonated with me, and we heard everywhere we went, from teachers and from parents, from trustees, is we have to keep moving to a system that is centered around the student. The system is centered around the system, many Albertans feel. And we've got to make sure that we internalize, and everything we're doing when we're making decisions, we're looking at that through the lens of, is this good for kids? I've got 3 kids in the education system, 12, 10, and 7, so one of them just wrote their grade 6 PATs here this week. And I know we'll have lots of discussions around assessment, and you've got comments and commitments from the Premier that we're going to take action on those over time as well. Yeah, you bet. But these discussions on assessment or curriculum, all those things, they're not silos, as some of your ATA members and staff were reminding me today. These things are all connected. These things have to move together, and we'll work on that together, because really this is a partnership. One of the most important things about making sure that our kids have the opportunities that we want them to have is to have you folks have the resources that you need, and to have you folks working at the top of your game. Many people have asked me, what's the top priority for you as an education minister? And of course, I've talked a little bit about the underlying things, but the first three things that are really important for us to get on in the near term, in my perspective, is one is capital. We've got an incredible amount of growth in the school system, and more students coming in, and we don't have desks for all these kids. So we are currently, and I just came from the infrastructure portfolio, we're currently got about 88 school projects on the go to a total of about $1 billion, which is a huge number compared to other jurisdictions. And the commitment from the Premier over the election that we're going to build 50 new schools and modernize 70 others over the next 4 years is a big task. So those kind of capital planning are things that we've started on already with your school boards putting in their capital priorities, and that's something that's front of mind for me. Another thing is the Education Act. And as you know, this is something that two education ministers previous to me have worked very, very hard on, and I know many of your members and your colleagues have had great input into that, and we do have a good Education Act, or we did, on the floor of the legislature. There are some Albertans that are still concerned about pieces of it. We've got a fairly new caucus in some respects, and we heard a lot through the election campaign. So we're just going to take a little bit of time here to digest what we've heard, and we'll bring the education back as quick as we can with any changes or tweaks that are going to be able to make that as strong as it possibly can in terms of an Education Act to take us forward. The third thing that's really important to me is to get the ATA and the ASBA back to the tripartite bargaining table. And I extended that invitation this week, and I also met privately and had lunch with the president of the ASBA and with your president on separate occasions, and we had some really good discussions. And there's different schools of thoughts. There's pros and cons versus local bargaining, provincial bargaining, but I can tell you as a parent and as someone who worked on inspiring education, I think one of the best things we did for kids, for students, for education in the last 5 years is had 5 years of labor agreement. And it allowed us to focus on the thing that really matters. Not that all these other initiatives and issues aren't of genuine concern, but that's the kids and the educational experience. And if you think about what happened in the last 5 years with initiatives like Speak Out, setting the direction, inspiring education, we were really able to focus on having a dialogue about education and about what Alberta might look like in 2020, 2030, and what our kids need to be equipped with coming out to be successful and have the opportunities that we want them to have. And that aligns with our Premier's vision, and I don't know how much you know about Alison Redford, but the more you get to know her, the more you're going to be impressed. And one thing I would say summarizes the way I feel about where she's taking us is a quote she had in the throne speech in February. And the quote was, today's short-sighted decisions become tomorrow's long-term problems. So she's a visionary forward thinker. Inspiring education is talking about where we need to be in the decades to come. And I know that your organization will keep that in mind and has that front of mind as we head into all the things that we need to do together. And I'm very excited about the portfolio that I'm in, the opportunity I've been given. And I can say that, don't underestimate the work you do. I know you know it's important. But you truly do have literally the future in your hands every day. And some of those are my children. So we take this seriously, and we need to take it seriously. One more thing I'd like to share with you, and it's a little story. Well, I guess just along those terms, I was chatting with one of your delegates last night in the hospitality suite, and she's a teacher, grade 1 teacher from Edmonton Catholic, been there over 30 years. And we were talking about how important grade 1 teachers are, because I bet everyone in this room remembers who their grade 1 teacher was, and fondly. And I have other teachers I don't remember so fondly, but and I can't remember them all. But my grade 1 teacher I remember fondly, and I'll bet every Albertan does. So everyone knows who their grade 1 teacher was, but I'll bet you nobody knows who the education minister was when they were in grade 1. So that's the kind of impact you have on every Albertan and every Canadian. And I know you don't take it lightly. So one more thing I'd like to share with you, and this is on behalf of my colleague, Mr. Lekazik. He was down at the Kennedy Space Center with his family, and who did he run into but Barbara Morgan. Now, as you know, she's a teacher and one of a select few that's been to space and to the mission to the International Space Station in 2007. And he mentioned he was from Alberta, Canada. So he was surprised that not only had she heard of our province, but she had heard about the quality of our education and quality of our teaching, particularly in the maths and sciences. And as they talked further, he got a real sense of just how far Alberta's reputation has traveled beyond our borders to teachers who are far away from our classrooms. And he brought back a note from that teacher, and it says, "Reach for the stars." And I want to share it with Carol Henderson and present it to the ATA on behalf of Thomas Lukazik, my friend and colleague. And I hope it's a reminder to all of us of just what impact knowledge and teaching can have, and how the career paths of teachers can take most marvelous turns, and how at the most surprising times we can be reminded about how people and journeys are connected. So I'll just read, she's got it personalized and autographed, to all the teachers of Alberta. Thank you for all you do to help our young people reach for the stars. Your colleague in education, Barbara R. Morgan. So on behalf of my colleague Thomas, thank you. Yeah. Thank you very much. Have a great conference. God bless you.